It was supposed to be a carefully planned reunion of civility, class, and royal diplomacy as Meghan Markle made her highly promoted guest appearance on The View, coinciding with her latest humanitarian initiative, and while rumors had been swirling for weeks about a surprise guest, no one in the studio audience expected the second chair to be filled by none other than Kate Middleton, Princess of Wales, who hadn't appeared on any American talk show since before the pandemic. In the moment she walked onto the stage, a visible shift occurred in Meghan's posture, her shoulders tensing ever so slightly, her smile polite but no longer warm. And as Whoopi Goldberg tried to lighten the tension by joking that the table was more royal than Buckingham Palace today, the audience laughed, but the energy between the two women remained thick with history, silence, and unspoken grievances. And for the first few minutes, both duchesses performed the ritual of diplomacy, complimenting each other's projects, nodding through each other's stories. But when Sunny Hostin gently pressed Kate about the palace's response to Meghan's earlier claims of neglect and racial insensitivity, the thin fabric of politeness began to unravel, as Kate, while maintaining her iconic composure, stated that certain narratives were presented without proper context, and that the royal family wasn't given a fair opportunity to respond, to which Meghan immediately raised her eyebrows and countered, "Is that what we're calling silence now, an opportunity missed?" And the audience, sensing the growing storm, murmured with anticipation as Joy Behar leaned forward with that signature twinkle in her eye and asked whether they believed reconciliation between them was still possible, to which Kate responded, "I believe in reconciliation rooted in accountability." Her words laced with elegance but unmistakably sharp, and Meghan, taking a long breath before speaking, replied, "Then perhaps you should start by acknowledging that accountability begins with truth, not tradition." And with that, the veneer cracked completely, and the two women, who had for years been symbols of restraint and grace, let their carefully measured smiles dissolve into something much more raw, as Meghan continued. "For years I was blamed for headlines I didn't write, for rumors I didn't start, while you remained conveniently silent." And Kate shot back, her voice still, poised but unmistakably colder. "Silence isn't complicity, it's dignity," which provoked a stunned reaction from the crowd. And for a moment, all the hosts went silent, unsure whether to intervene or let history unfold on daytime television. And that's when Meghan leaned in, and voice steady but eyes ablaze, said, "No, silence is privilege, Kate, and you wore it well." And with that, she removed her mic, placed it calmly on the table, and stood up, thanking the hosts for their time before walking off stage to a mixed roar of applause and stunned gasps. And as the camera awkwardly panned back to the hosts and Kate, who now sat alone in her seat, clutching her teacup with hands that slightly trembled, Whoopi finally broke the silence by saying, "Well, that was history, folks." And within minutes, the internet exploded with footage, think pieces, memes, and furious debate about who was right, who was wrong, and whether the royal rift had now spilled irreparably into American media with hashtags like hashtag Meghan storms off, hashtag royal reckoning, hashtag Quetta Bez Meghan, trending across every platform imaginable. And as analysts on both sides of the Atlantic weighed in on the implications for the monarchy, feminism, for race, and for family dynamics, Meghan released a calm and deliberate statement the next day via her foundation's website, stating, "I will never apologize for refusing to be silent when silence protects the wrong people." While Kate, through palace channels, offered no formal comment, only a photo posted days later of her visiting a children's hospital. Her message subtle but clear, and while some saw Meghan's walk-off as a sign of strength, others criticized it as theatrics. But either way, it reignited a global conversation about the modern monarchy, institutional gaslighting, and the expectations placed upon women to be likable above being honest. And in the weeks that followed, Meghan's foundation received record-breaking donations. Her podcast saw its highest-ever subscriber surge, and streaming platforms fought for the rights to adapt the moment into a dramatized series or documentary. While behind palace walls, insiders reported renewed discussions about crisis communication and how the firm had once again failed to manage the power of a woman who refused to follow the script. And for Meghan, the walk-off wasn't just a dramatic exit, it was a final, severing of the thread that had long tied her to a system that demanded her silence in exchange for acceptance, and this time she walked off not in defeat, but in defiance. Her voice no longer filtered, her truth no longer postponed, and the world, love it or hate it, was forced once again to listen. In the wake of Meghan Markle's explosive departure from The View, the world didn't move. On it paused, dissected, and polarized. As if one moment of unscripted truth had cut through the carefully curated image of royalty like a blade through silk. And while the videos circulated across every platform imaginable, from YouTube to TikTok to morning radio talk shows, Meghan remained almost completely silent apart from that one poignant statement posted through her foundation. But the conversation did not need her voice to remain loud, because the public had taken the narrative and split it into competing truths. One side holding up Meghan as a symbol of righteous defiance, the other defending Kate's composed and calculated restraint as the more noble response. And for the first time in modern media history, a daytime talk show segment became the subject of official statements from both Buckingham Palace and American political commentators. With the palace expressing regret over unfortunate tensions, aired in such a public setting, and several U.S. senators bizarrely referencing the moment during discussions of race and cultural diplomacy, and amid the chaos, Meghan took a step that no one predicted. She flew to Ghana away from the flashing cameras and appeared at a women's conference focused on post-colonial healing and narrative reclamation, delivering a speech so grounded, so emotionally intelligent, that it reframed her identity not as a tabloid centerpiece but as an evolving voice of global relevance. And meanwhile, Kate Middleton resumed royal duties with machine-like precision, attending charity events, hospital openings, and ribbon-cutting ceremonies, all while the press tried desperately to catch a flicker of emotional fallout in her famously unreadable eyes. But even behind her calm demeanor, aides close to the royal household reportedly said there was pressure mounting within the firm to address the widening gap between tradition and transparency, especially as younger audiences overwhelmingly supported Meghan, with hashtag Duchess Unfiltered and hashtag We Stand With Meghan becoming rallying cries for a new generation who no longer accepted polished silence as dignity. And then came the Real Earthquake Can exclusive documentary trailer dropped without warning, titled The Crown Unspoken, Women Behind the Titles. Executive produced by Meghan herself, and featuring not only her voice but those of other women who had married into legacy institutions and then been punished for being anything other than ornamental. And in the trailer, Meghan's voice narrates over images of Buckingham Palace, broken tiaras and flickering candlelight. When you trade your voice for a title, you inherit a prison with chandeliers, and the internet caught fire again, this time with pre-orders, breakdowns, and a renewed call for accountability not just from the monarchy, but from the media ecosystems that upheld its traditions through selective storytelling. And Kate, reportedly blindsided by the documentary's scope, faced a choice: issue a rebuttal, or continue her time-honored strategy of outlasting the narrative through silence. But this time, silence wasn't winning because Meghan had moved the battlefield from headlines to high art, from scandal to storytelling, and when the documentary premiered a month later, it broke records across streaming platforms. It's not only for its content, but for the way it peeled back layers of media manipulation.